So after that, I watched yesterday the video of Farvan, the famous black metalist YouTuber, about his journey to the black metal. So I will try to make my version, uh, my style of video about the same subject. How I became inside black metal and how I became a metalhead in the general way. So let's start. In Today I'm 44 years old. Originally I am from Greece, from Athens of Greece. Today I live in Israel, in Jerusalem. But I have to say that when I started to listen to music, it was something like between 15 and 16 years old. Until this age, I was not so inside music. It was not one of my interests in my life in these years. So when I was 16 years old, I remember that a little bit I started to listen to the radio, to some of the pop songs of the radio, and I started to like some of them. For example, if I remember well, when I was even a little bit more younger, uh, 13 or 14 years old, was a great rock song in the radio that I liked so much. The song of Joan Jett, if I'm not sure. Uh, I hate you for loving you, something like that. Can I hate that I love loving you, something like that. This was the song of Joan Jett. In these years, I didn't know about Joan Jett. I didn't know about the Runaways. Nothing about rock or metal, but I liked the song. So, 16 years old, I started to listen a little bit to pop music, Ace of Base, for example, for my sister, this kind of things. And in these days, I started also to like very much techno music. For example, I liked so much Two Unlimited. Two Unlimited, they were a duo of techno, pop techno style, let's disco pop techno style in these years. Very successful in this period of time. Okay, and then was one friend of mine in the school, in high school. One friend of mine in Athens, in Greece, Kostas Kranis was his name. He came to me and he said he was a metalhead. Maybe if I'm wrong, if I'm not sure, he was the only stereotype metalhead in all the school. Maybe there were other also metalheads in the school, but he was this guy that always he had black t-shirts of with of metal bands and all this style of the metalhead. But he was a very clever guy, and he is a very clever guy. And I liked so much to speak to him, but I didn't understand this kind of love of him about the metal music. For me, in these years, if you would ask me what is metal, what is rock, I would say to you, this is only noise, noise pollution, and all these things, satanism, and all these things. All these stereotypes, the bad stereotypes about metal. But this guy was so clever and so polite, and he said to me, "You know something? I will give you a tape." In these years, we had even more the tapes. Okay, I will give you a cassette, a tape. You will listen to this, and if you like it, well. If you not like it, bring it back to me. He gave me the fourth album, if I'm not sure, yes, the fourth album of an English folk metal band by the name Skyclad, if you know them, and he gave me the album Prince of the Poverty Line. I took it, I didn't know the band, I started to listen to this tape. For me, this was like a revelation. I didn't understand from where it came. It was like something it's very difficult to speak about words, because until this time, for me, metal was something very, very, let's say, awful, something that is not about me. It's only about people that they wanted to make only about growls and about satanism that I said before, and anarchism and these things. But this album was so great also about the music, and also the whole thing about the folkish elements in the style of Skyclad, also the thrash elements, but also about the words, about the lyrics. Here I didn't find satanism, I didn't find anarchism in the simplistic way. I find a band with very special lyrics, and I said to him, wow, I like this so much. I remember that I listened to this tape, Prince of the Poverty Line of Skyclad, day after day. He gave me the next album of them, Silent Whales of Lunar Sea, also another tape. And I started also to listen to this album so much, these two albums of Skyclad. 1 month afterwards, another friend of mine that he listened that I started to like metal. He said me, so if you like metal, of course you know Metallica. I said to him, I know about only the name, but I didn't listen something about them, their music. He said me, how it could be. So he gave me another tape, the Black Album of Metallica. And this is it. After these three albums, these two albums of Skyclad and the Black Album of Metallica, I said to myself, I am a metalhead. This was my beginning inside metal. I became 18 years old, so I came to Israel. But before that I came to Israel, I had a trip in Europe, and I found there many albums. For example, I started also to read the magazine Metal Hammer of Greece. This is a great magazine about metal music. For me, it's even better from the Metal Hammer of England of today, for example. And I started to find many informations about other bands, about other styles of metal, about the history of metal. So when I was in this trip in Europe, in many countries, I was in France, I remember Belgium, Italy, Bulgaria. So especially when I was in France, I found many special things. For example, I bought all the other albums of Metallica in these days before the Black Album. I started to buy albums of Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, of course, Power Slave. I started to buy also Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1, Megadeth, Euthanasia, Faith No More, King for a Day, a compilation of Scorpions, of songs of Scorpions, this style of stuff. And also I bought in this day I remember I bought also Beneath the Remains of Sepultura. And I remember when I put the tape of Sepultura, this third album of them, to listen to it, and it was another also revelation. In the beginning, I thought that maybe the tape it has a problem, because it was so fast, so aggressive, and I like it also so much. The years come one year after the other. When I was in Israel, also I started to try to find new bands, and in these years between 1995 that I came to Israel and until 1999, in all these years I became a fan of power metal. For me, I remember that the most beloved style of metal in these years was power metal. Also in Greece, the power metal in this period of time was very famous in Greece and also in other parts of Europe. So I started to listen, of course, to Gamma Ray, Ed Guy, Blind Guardian, of course, Iced Earth, this kind of bands, Grave Digger, Hammerfall, Nightwish a little bit afterwards. They were in the beginning they were atmospheric metal with some power metal elements in the beginning, and Stratovarius, and so on and so on and so on. And in 2000, I married with my wife, and I remember at the beginning of the millennium started the whole thing about the nu metal. If you remember all these bands like Korn, Slipknot, Linkin Park, System of a Down, all this style of bands, and then I said to myself, this is not exactly metal. I like so much metal, I like so much Iron Maiden, I like so much power metal, but this is not exactly metal. But in these years, I started also to listen to death metal. For me, the first death metal album was Dayside, and their third album, Once You Upon the Cross. Also, for me, another revelation. In the beginning, also, I was afraid to listen to this album. But I started to like it even more. Decided Death, of course, or Symbolic was their first album that I listened from the band of Chuck, of the band of Death, and also other things came one after the other. Bolt Thrower. Until now, I like so much Bolt Thrower. Bands like Immolation from the New York death metal scene. Unleashed, things from the Swedish death metal, the old school of death metal. Grave, Entombed, of course. And together with, in this period of time, was also famous the new wave of melodic Swedish death metal, In Flames. Oracle was the first album that I listened from them. At the Gates, Dark Tranquillity. I have to say that also the whole style of Pantera and Machine Head, I was inside this, but for me, these bands, they were not exactly my favorite style of metal music. The groove metal of the 90s, let's say. But I remember also that I liked so much Southern, the Great Southern Trend Key of Pantera, for example. Okay, but I was not exactly so much inside the groove metal of Pantera and of Machine Head. I have to say that when I was inside the death metal, I until this day, until this period of time, I didn't say to myself I'm a death metal fan. Before I said I am a power metal fan, but when I listen even more to death metal, I did became really a death metal fan. I listened to some death metal bands and I like them very much, but I said okay, I like metal in all or in all of their style, listen things from here and from there, Dream Theater, also of progressive metal, and etc. and etc. One thing that I liked so much all the time, from the beginning until now, is also the real epic metal. Epic metal, when I speak about epic metal, is not exactly the power metal. You have some bands that they are really epic metal. Manowar, for example, Virgin Steel, they are the leaders of this style of music, but of course you have to put it there. Omen, US power metal, of course, some of these bands. Warlord from United States, Manila Road, Serif Ankle, Heavy Load from Sweden. This still this kind of bands, and of course we have here today so many very good bands that came from this subgenre of metal, the epic metal genre. So the first black metal album that I came to connection with it was Cradle of Filth, and their first EP, Vampire, something like that, is the name of the album. This first EP that came out after their first full studio album of them. And I remember also another revelation was something so strange. The lyrics and the whole gothic vampire style of them. The voice of Danny Filth was so strange, and I like it so much. The keyboards inside their music, I like it also. I like it, and a little bit afterwards, I started to listen to other black metal bands, for example, Bathory. I remember, I don't remember exactly which album I listened first of all of Bathory. Was The Return or was Hammerheart? This is, I'm not very sure about this. In any case, I liked so much also Bathory. And Burzum. Yes, Burzum of Varg. Of course, I don't have any connection about about his Nazi anti-Semitic ideas of him. I hate him for this. He's my enemy. In any case, but his music is so special, so special. I started to listen to his second album. And also for me it was something even more great than Cradle of Filth. But afterwards came other also bands, Dimmu Borgir, of course, Dark Funeral, this style of bands. Dissection, for me, another great band of Swedish melodic black metal with death metal elements. And also, when in this period of time, if you ask me, you are a black metal head, I will say to you, no, not exactly. Also, like death metal, I like some things from death metal, I like some things from black metal, but it was not exactly the real love of me. Something between 2010 and afterwards, I became even more inside. I come inside even more thrash metal scene, speed and thrash metal scene. And for 10 years and something, I was inside thrash metal very, very, very strong. Until now, the biggest collection of my albums is most of the albums, they are from speed and thrash metal. All style of thrash metal and all from United States, Bay Area thrash metal, German, Teutonic thrash metal from all the parts of the world. And until now, I like so much also speed and thrash metal. No way. But I can say that before 5 years from now, before, little by little, I can say that today, in these 5 years, I'm not listening to thrash metal so much in the way that I listened before. Today I can say that for me, thrash metal is also a great subgenre of metal, that I like it and I love it. But I will not come and put here today one thrash metal album every day that I listen, even in these days. And before 5 years, little by little, I started to be even more inside black metal. And when you start to listen to black metal in this way, not only like an outsider metalhead fan that maybe you like some bands, also I liked also Watain. For me, they were very, very close to Dissection style. But little by little, I listened to even more bands, Darkthrone. For example, for many years I had a Blaze in the Northern Sky in my collection, but it was not a band. It was not a bad album that I listened to every day. But little by little, I came even more inside black metal because of Immortal. Immortal, and when I started to listen even more to their albums, to all of their albums, of course, Heart of the Winter is a masterpiece, but also the other first album of them. This was the cut, let's say the hook that took me even more inside the black metal, because I liked even before Dissection and Bathory and Gradle Filth, Dimmu Borgir and their Dark Funeral and Watain, and but a little bit Burzum, but this was not exactly the way that I could say to myself I'm a black metalhead. But because of Immortal and what came afterwards, wow! Today, most of the albums that I buy, most of them, I buy also many things, and I buy for any subgenre that I like and any band that I like. But most of the bands and albums that I buy today from metal, most of them they are black metal. Black metal of all the styles of black metal. And I started to read books about black metal, to see films about black metal, not only Lord of Chaos, of course, the film. Today I could say that I'm inside black metal even more, and I am a black metal head also. This is my personal story, how I came inside metal and of course inside black metal from Israel, from Jerusalem. Stay metal and stay heavy.